The gang is all here! Yeah!
Yeah!
Yeah! Woo! Yeah! Yeah! Let's go! Hey! Let's go! Hey!
Let's go!
All right. Preseason Warriors Summit 2023. First and foremost, thank you, each and every one of you for coming here to Fieldwork Brewing Company in San Leandro.
Yeah!
It means the world to all of us. I know I speak for everybody up here when I say that, so thank you so much for being here. And the gang is all here. Welcome, Bonte and Shasky. Morning Roast is here.
Yeah!
Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Welcome, Steiny and Goose. Steiny and Goo are here. And all of you are here, and all of our thoughts on the Warriors are here as well. So without any further ado, let's dive right into this. Bonte, in many ways, on the media front, you're the face of this team. So why don't you lead us off with an opening thought on what we're looking at right now?
What we're looking at is the unknown, right? I mean, we got some four-time champs here with Steph, Klay, and Draymond. You got Kevon Looney. You have Andrew Wiggins back. We have the unknown with Jonathan Kaminga. We're waiting to see him rise and take that third-year leap. So what we have is an entertaining team, a team that's won championships. But honestly, I don't know what to expect this season. Expect the unexpected, but I think it'll be entertaining. And, hey, that's a lot better than the Giants, right? It's a lot better than the Giants. That's all we could ask for. I had to give a shot at the Giants.
Wow.
Pow!
Wow.
Yeah!
Pay the under on how long it took for Bonte to rip the Giants. Let's go to Joe Shasky. Joe, what do you got? What are you thinking?
I mean, look, this is the golden era of Warrior basketball.
Yeah, man.
I mean, I know Steinmetz was covering the team at this time, but I'm a Depression era Warrior fan. I'm going to soak the Steph Curry era as long as I can. So as far as I'm concerned, every year he's here is a blessing, and every year he's here, they're a contender until we see otherwise. Why not them? Seriously.
Hey, you guys did a great job with Joe Lacob this morning.
Yeah, you did.
What stood out to you from that conversation?
That he loves me.
Okay. All right. There it
He does
is.
want Shasky to caddy for him at Pebble Beach.
There
He
it
said
is.
that. The biggest takeaway, why wouldn't you want an owner like that?
He's the
a guy
best.
who's going to spin,
Yes.
and the number one priority, all we want as fans, are you going to try to win? That's all we want. Super Bowls or die trying. Finals or die trying. Joe Lacob wants to win, and that's all you want in the owner. He spins, and he wants to win. Now, will it work out in the end? Not every year, but that's all I want in the owner. And I think that's my biggest takeaway there with Joe's light years.
Yeah, he's maniacally obsessed with winning, which is all you can ask for. And then, more than anything, they take big, bold risks. I don't know if Chris Paul's going to work out, but damn, it's going to be fun to check it out. I mean, the ultimate villain joining the Warriors, and you trade away Jordan Poole, who, look, I was a Jordan Poole fan, but he didn't play well at the end of last year. So they needed to shake it up. And if you're going to ride with Draymond, Klay, and Steph, well, then you had to shake something else up, and that was really the only other variable. Chris Paul, let's see it. Let's see it. Let's just see what it looks like. They need his smarts and his IQ. They might be old, but the last I checked, old teams do well in the playoffs.
Exactly.
So I'm here to see it.
All right, let's get over to Steiny and Goo with some opening thoughts on the Warriors this year. Steiny, as he said, you've been around this team for a long, long time. What are you thinking with this particular group?
With this particular group, they have a better chance of winning a title this year than they did last year. I don't think they had a shot last year in hell. I really don't. Coming off a championship, they had a lot of stuff going on. They were not going to win it last year. Stuff was going to happen. It just was, and it did. This year, I give them a chance. I give them a chance because they're really smart. They're a really smart team. They are old. But if they stay healthy, ... That's what it's all about. If they stay healthy, then how good are they?
Guru, what do you think?
What I think is, before I even get into it, I just want to give my two comrades, Bonte and Shasky, love, because that was a great, real interview this morning. You got to give them a round of applause. And everybody, every sports team or city should be envious to have an owner like Joe Lacob. And I ain't kissing ass. That was real. That's a real owner, 4 titles. He got booed. We saw all that, and look what he's built. But to that, I will never forget the Friday morning. It might have been about 5 5:48. I got up and grabbed my phone last year, and we saw the visual of Draymond punching Jordan Poole.
6:42, Guru.
Yeah, we were on air. His was booming.
Yeah, so much for Football Friday.
Hey, look at you. And from that moment on, I was in denial, thinking what the Warriors have built and we experienced was the Warrior culture. But I realized how hurt I was when the dust settled after the Lakers took the Warriors out last year. They never fixed the culture. It was so bad. And now I hear Joe Lacob in the studio this morning. Stylistically, I'm not Hubie Brown, but I didn't like the Chris Paul fit. But what everybody's told and sold me on is he has brought these guys together. We got to sit down with Dunleavy. What did he say? The new GM, connectivity. So now I feel like Chris Paul is going to fix what ailed the Warriors in regard to culture, and that was the rat on the table last year. Where's my man?
Shake it.
That won already.
Hey, good.
And that's why I think they're going to be okay. Yeah.
You realize you affected the show today. He's going to say it every time he talks. He's going to put a rat on the table with our cardboard counter over here.
The culture's going to be better and healthier.
Well, so you said something, though, that's interesting there, which I agree with, which is that we're being sold something, and there's negative connotations there. That's not what I mean. Right now, there's two sort of separate topics with that Chris Paul thing. There's the basketball side of it, and we don't know yet. But then there's the culture side of it, and the Warriors as a group, it has felt like a campaign. And they have all used that word, connectivity.
Yeah.
It's a campaign. And it feels like you're buying in.
Yeah, I am buying it. No, but listen.
No.
This is the beautiful thing about this season. You can't lie to the people, and I'm not saying they're pushing that. Chris Paul's an icon, a great. He's been the president of the NBA Players Association. I know what he's meant. But I hope they don't tap dance like Gregory Hines around what he's been. So he shouldn't finish the game, Mark, if he's not your fifth best player or he's playing that way. So I want to see what the Warriors do if they bow down, Ice Cube, if they bow down to what he's meant, or do they say, you know what, Chris, we don't need you in here tonight to finish the game. So I'm watching that scoreboard.
That'll be a problem.
We got Game 7
That
tonight.
will be a problem.
You know
Why? Rightfully so.
Why would that be a problem?
Chris Paul's got to be on the floor late. He has to be.
He's got one of the smartest IQs in the history of the game.
You don't require Chris Paul to not be on the floor with 3 to 5 minutes to go. And the way the Warriors are looking at it, and I remember you guys talking about Poole finishing, not finishing. Poole always had the first opportunity to finish. Always. Yep. Chris Paul's always going to have the first opportunity to finish, and he should.
Mark, are you skeptical? Because it sounds like you're skeptical.
Less so than in a basketball sense, yes. I'm still skeptical.
You're skeptical.
I'm still skeptical, yes.
Why?
Age and defense.
Okay.
Age and defense.
That's fair. Those are valid.
Yeah. Like I'm less skeptical now about the bigger picture stuff. Like I even look at the six of us. Like we've had a good year here. And sometimes, you look at the people in this room, whatever your family situation is, whatever your work situation is, when it clicks and when it doesn't. And if you ask, how do you make it click when it's not clicking? You can't just do it. It has to sort of organically happen. What I've noticed with the Warriors this offseason is that whatever this mixture is that felt wrong at the beginning, it feels now like it's working. It feels to me like they're buying it, but that's all preseason. The basketball X's and O's at some point this year are going to take over, and that's what I still wonder about.
Don't you think that all of their interests align? Like, whereas Jordan Poole felt like he had a career-long runway, and he had different aspirations, and I'm sure there was a ton of things baked into it. But like Chris Paul, he doesn't have many options but to get along. He's facing free agency. What's up?
Klay?
See, Klay's the interesting variable. I don't know. And Kevon Looney's been such a valuable soldier for them. Kevon Looney has taken on any role that they've asked for. I think it's very underrated. Kevon Looney is the glue.
Dan Dibb, Dibley, opening statement. Your thoughts on this group right now?
Well, the reason why you trade Jordan Poole and you bring in Chris Paul is because you want to try to win a championship. And so you sacrifice then for now. So when you're going to go for it now, it comes down to one for the thumb. And that's what Joe Lacob said to you guys this morning, that he wants to get them past LeBron James so you don't worry about the future. I'm fascinated by Jonathan Kaminga's role. If Kaminga takes that year 3 leap and becomes the kind of player that Jordan Poole became in their 3rd year, and they stay healthy, they win the championship.
All right, real quick, do not miss the last weekend of the legendary and mind-blowing Maker Faire at historic Mare Island. Experience the ultimate showcase of innovation and endless possibilities. Celebrate creativity and curiosity this Friday through Sunday. Get your tickets now at makerfaire.com. This is Fieldwork Brewing Company in San Leandro. We're so glad to be here, and this is the Warriors Summit. And yes, we will get to Klay coming up next, but also coming up next, the journey of how we all felt when Chris Paul was first acquired to now, and how has that changed? We'll get into that. The whole gang is here for the Warriors Summit. Fieldwork Brewing Company, San Leandro, 95.7 The Game.
Bring your friends, family, and your lederhosen to Almanac's Rocktoberfest, Saturday, October 21st.
Now back to the Warriors Summit, live from Fieldwork Brewing Company in San Leandro on 95.7 The Game.
Let them know you're here, Warriors Summit. Let them know you're here. Yeah. Fieldwork Brewing Company, San Leandro, one of 8 locations around the Bay Area, and we are just making our way through and having fun at each and every one of them. Beautiful day, still plenty of time if you are now just getting off work and you're in the area, make your way over. We would love to see you. Say hi as we do our preseason 2023-24 Warriors Summit here on 95.7 The Game with the whole crew here. We were just talking about Chris Paul, and I do think, Guru, maybe you should start with this because it is interesting. The journey of a Warrior fan when you first hear that Chris Paul is going to be on the team to where we are now in terms of acceptance of him before he's even played a game. What's been the evolution of that for you?
Okay, I got to be careful here because the Warriors, they built something. They built a dynasty. They earned it brick by brick. And Chris Paul, I know he's a great player, people, but he's yearning for a ring, what the Warriors have. And to me, it just didn't, like my shoes in my drawer, they didn't match because he's looking to get to the mountaintop, and his brand is so big, and I didn't know if that was cohesive. Like, the Warriors have already got what he's trying to get, and now I feel like because he's such a big personality, will the big personality be bigger than the basketball, the right basketball decision is somehow he wouldn't be the benefit from that. So that's why I'm looking at it. I'm going to watch it play out. But just naturally, he's been the enemy. The Warriors have won. What is he going to tell this team about winning rings? You don't have any bling. But you can tell him a whole lot of other stuff about basketball, so we'll watch it play out.
Why you laugh?
It's just Guru has a way with words, man. Come on. That deserves a rat. Give me a rat on the counter. That deserves a rat. Guru out here spitting fire. Well, yeah,
you going to finish it?
Yeah, all right. I thought Guru was going to finish.
I'll finish it.
Go ahead, finish it.
Well,
you start.
I hear what you're saying. He's a selfless player by design. That's how he wants to play the game. It would be one thing if he was coming and gunning, like he was James Harden, and it was going to be dribble, dribble, dribble. I'm going to only take the shot. It's me. It's Russell Westbrook. It's not. This guy wants to share the ball. Steph and Klay want to come off screens.
Right.
Wiggins is not a guy, give me the ball, get out of my way. So he's entering a team that already likes to share the ball and play without the basketball.
Right.
So I think stylistically, offensively, I think it's a great fit.
Especially when you go from Jordan Poole, who was exactly as you were describing. And Jordan Poole's a great player, and he's going to average 28 in D.C., but he is dribble, dribble, dribble.
Exactly.
How can I get a bucket for myself? Chris Paul's going to go out there and play like Jason Kidd did late in his career, 12 assists and maybe 1 for 3 from the floor. Chris Paul might lead the league in assists based on playing with these guys.
But Guru, I don't want to speak for you, but my perception of what you're saying, because I do feel some of it, is very little to do with selfishness on the court, and it has much more to do with when things get difficult, locker room, on the bench, and sure, if it's who's starting and who's finishing. We know who Chris Paul has been through the years as an NBA teammate, and that role is not all that available here. Like, the guy that comes in, takes over the locker room, is a huge, huge voice, is someone who will hold people very accountable, maybe even sometimes to a negative level. I don't think any of those things are bad, but it's hard to imagine him as the alpha in the room on this particular squad. I think that's what you're saying, and I feel that. Okay. I get that.
And let me just give you this little antidote. The you coaching, that everybody laughed and that was funny, but there was some truth to that. And then Steve Kerr going out his way, Dibs and Steiny, 6 starters. I felt like you were placating to that. Okay, everybody can technically have 6 starters, but that was what are we doing here? Play the best 5.
The ego
he was supposed to come off the
important.
bench. He was supposed to run the second team, I thought.
Well, he should be placated.
That's what I'm saying.
Essentially, it was a placation sensation.
Exactly.
Is what it was, Joe.
My question is why?
Thank you.
That's a
Because
bump.
he's never come off the bench in his whole career. So
That's a
you
bump.
at least give him a chance to start, and then if it doesn't work, then you pull him aside. But because of the Draymond injury,
Exactly.
we may not know if Draymond's going to be ready or not.
I don't get that. I want to ask that. Why would you placate him upon arrival? Why?
Because
Because
you want to
you
get the
need
best
him.
Chris
Thank
Paul.
you.
Because
Thank
you
you.
need
Thank you.
him.
You
You need his leadership.
You need all of them.
Let me tell you what happened last year.
Talk to us.
Speak
The
on
whole, Curry's a leader in his own kind of way, and Draymond's the heart and soul, and Klay. No, that myth came to an end last year, as far as I'm concerned.
culture took
One
a
of the
hit.
reasons Chris Paul's here is it's going to take away a little of Draymond's voice. I firmly believe that. Because I absolutely think they need Chris Paul to lead this team because it doesn't come naturally to any of the three right now, and it really matters because they're not in their primes right now.
Okay, that's an interesting statement. You're reacting to that.
Yeah,
What's your thought
I
there?
think Steiny's on fire with that one. And look, not only do they need his leadership, but that second unit suffered last year. How many times did the Warriors get a lead? That second unit comes in, they blow the lead, give it right back. These guys are too old to continue to build 10 to 15-point leads. They don't have those 20 to 2 blitzes in them like they used to have in 2015, 16, 17, 18. So I'm looking forward to Chris Paul. Not only the starting thing is overblown,
I
I think that's
agree.
going to be
I agree with
overblown.
that.
And we're
Yeah,
going to be talking about the finishing lineup throughout the season. Who's not in the finishing lineup? And I heard something that Steiny said earlier that I want to get to. I think it's very fascinating. But what he's going to do to unlock Kaminga and play with Sarge and opposite of Wiggins, I think that's where you need him because quietly they've missed Sean Livingston, the stabilizer in that second unit alongside Andre
And
Iguodala.
Iggy, yeah.
But I agree with that, but isn't that saying that you want him on the second unit more than the first? Like,
No, he's going to play with everybody.
of course he is.
We're
It's a
focused on the
line
wrong
change.
thing.
It's not a line
Right, of
change.
course it
You're
is.
blending lineups.
But what Goo is trying to talk about is how Chris will handle things if they're thrown at him a different way than they have previous in his career. And Steiny, when you say they need him, I think that's a fascinating statement. The idea that Draymond's voice needs to be lessened a little bit.
Yeah.
But does that have anything to do with being in the starting lineup? Does that have anything to do with every night being in the finishing lineup?
All right, so, I don't really like fluff, and I don't like stories in the summer but clearly Chris Paul was taken by surprise to be a member of the Golden State Warriors.
Feels that way.
And it took him a while, a few weeks to adjust. But everything I've heard is he has immersed himself into the organization, not just with the veterans, but with the young players. All that kind of stuff, and usually I roll my eyes at that stuff. But I do know this. When I look at Chris Paul on this team, I think he is far more the solution
I agree.
than the problem. If you have to list the Golden State Warriors' problems or what you're most worried about, health off the board. That's everybody's number one.
Yeah.
Then what is it?
I think it's playmaking in the half court with 6 minutes to go. Go back to Klay had the ball in his hands, and he's forced into being a playmaker. Yep. That did them in at long stretches of the Kings series, and it ended up being horrible in the Lakers series. We could talk about Anthony Davis. No one's guarding Anthony Davis. He's a very difficult guard. They have lost in the finals because they have failed to execute in the half court. Whatever game you want to pick in the playoffs, they lost this year. They needed a second ball handler. We thought Jordan Poole, when he was good, provided that in the Memphis series the year prior. And then he got kind of played out of the Celtics series, and they relied on just Steph. They need a second ball handler to be able to take it off of Steph Curry's hands time to time. I think we're way too into the emotions and not into the X's and O's.
Yeah.
Defense is overrated.
Wow.
They've got stoppers on defense. Wiggins can stop someone. Draymond can stop someone. Looney, if need be, can stop. GP2. They needed a playmaker in the half court.
But you're talking about a finishing lineup, and if it's Chris Paul and Steph, and you're going up against Denver, and they've got 3 7-footers.
It's matchups.
I don't know.
Well, so
I don't know
matchup-based
how-
matchups.
That's why something
I'm
Steiny
worried
said
about
today
that.
was very fascinating. Steiny mentioned Klay Thompson, and we know how polarizing Klay Thompson is around here. He's entering the contract year. We don't know if he's going to be a Warrior forever. He may want 30, 35 million. But Steiny said something that rang very true. And I go back to when he came back. Steiny said that Kerr is going to find a way to play Klay. And I fully subscribe to that because when Klay was working himself back, they had the built-in excuse to not start Klay Thompson. because they wanted to manage his ego. And so they went with Jordan Poole to come off the bench, despite them getting off to an 18-2 start. It would have been easy to say, hey, Klay, you've had 2.5 years of rehab. Just ease into it here. But instead, they knew the psyche of Klay, and they inserted him into the starting lineup. I say all that to say, if he's on the bench in the final 5 minutes, and if they're not winning, that's where the moping begins. Draymond's already hinted at it. We don't know how Chris Paul will react to that. If Klay's not in the lineup in the final 5 minutes, forget the starting lineups.
I agree.
And, hey, number 11, Klay Thompson out of Washington State. That doesn't matter. That's irrelevant. Who's on the floor in the last 5 minutes, and are they winning?
Yes.
That could determine a lot.
Now,
Yes, sir.
This is an interesting topic because
That's right on the money.
If you're talking about Klay Thompson, and you tell me if this is not the word that you would use, but if the ego is a little bit fragile or touchy, whatever it is, and now you're adding in a contract situation that is unsettled. So what does that mean for him this year and how that's going to look?
Well, that's a fascinating thing. What does it mean? Does it mean he presses and starts chucking up shots and getting his 22 field goal attempts and not playing within the offense? Does that mean he doesn't really care on defense? I don't know what it means, Mark. What does it mean for Chris Paul, who, yes, he was stunned on coming to the Golden State Warriors. He had his mindset on the Clippers. Oh, there's a point guard job available. I go back down to Southern California. I get to start again. Oh, wait, I have to go to the Warriors. So that's what that means. How does his performance get affected by it? We shall see.
Don't you think he's going to get better looks in the half court with Chris Paul and Steph Curry playing in the backcourt?
Butch, I'm not mad at that, but I'm so damn tired of people telling me Chris Paul is going to change everybody else's diapers.
No, he's going to make it
Chris
easier.
Paul can't change his own diapers. What are you bringing to the table offensively? Quit selling me on who he's going to pass the ball to, because there's going to be there's going to be times, Butch, if you watch, where he's going to have to score, and that's what I'm watching him take a step back. Mark, it ain't going to just be, I'm going to pass it to anybody. What if you got to get a bucket?
Well, he shot 38% from three last year.
Because the guy that's not on this team that you guys ran out of town is Jordan Poole. And that's who we need to be responsible. Who's going to replace
Poole
those
shot 29% last year. That's the Russell Westbrook zone.
Oh, he's going to pass it and unlock Kaminga. Kaminga can unlock himself.
No, I don't know about that yet. We didn't see that yet.
He's 21. He's 21, Go.
21.
And he's
21 years
now.
old.
21.
I mean, I hear where you're coming from, but if you go back 2 years ago, if you ask an NBA exec, why did the Warriors suddenly rebirth themselves and win a championship? And I think most of those executives will argue because there was a surprise season from Jordan Poole. A player stepped forward, for sure. There's
Wiggins
a bunch of reasons.
Wiggins in the playoffs
was huge.
It was almost. But you're talking about all season long, who gave you stuff that you absolutely didn't see coming? You could argue Wiggins, but Jordan Poole broke out.
Yeah.
I think this year is very similar. Someone's going to need to break out, and we all know who the candidate is. It has to be Jonathan Kaminga. If they're going to win a title this year, he's got to be amazing. He's got to be amazing this year.
He's their one athlete outside of Wiggins.
No doubt.
I mean, they don't have a lot of athleticism.
Now, if Steve Kerr told us this week that the three athletes that he's counting on, GP2, Kaminga, and Wiggins.
There you go.
I think Wiggins is the key. And if he plays with force, as Steve told us earlier in the week, as he did in 22 when they won the championship, he played with force. We had the K-Wig bit during our 51 weeks together.
He put it to rest.
That bit, he put that bit to rest.
Bad.
All right, we'll see.
We had to rechange formats again.
It's
been 3 years of tumult.
Did you have parking then?
Oh, too soon.
Too soon. This is the Warriors Summit.
I'm loving the Bart Chronicles, by the way.
It is dope. I love it.
Fieldwork Brewing Company. Good morning, baby. In San Leandro, we are having our preseason Warriors party, our discussion, the whole gang here at 95.7 The Game. We thank each and every one of you for being here, for listening. If you're just listening, why don't you make your way over here, Fieldwork Brewing Company in San Leandro. Guys, what about this then? I think all of this is heading to the same place. You get to the end of last year, it wasn't good enough. You're going to the offseason thinking, okay, changes need to come as far as roster construction. Steiny, what would you say? Just look at the roster. Is the roster now, look at Milwaukee, look at Boston, look at Denver, look at the Lakers, look around the league. Is the roster what it needs to be?
Well, I I would say no, but I would say that for every team almost. You know what I mean? Because everybody's looking to improve. I think they have more of a chance to win it this year than last year. Last year was a nightmare.
It was.
It was just. Jordan Poole had issues. Klay was stunk at the beginning. Then he stunk. And Curry had to be a different leader
Hurt his shoulder.
than he likes to be, or that he's comfortable with. Wiggins went AWOL. I still think there might be some gray area about that. Like, we'll see, but I think they have a much better chance to all be on the same page as opposed to where they were last year coming in. I think last year coming in, wasn't this when the report came out that Klay was looking for a max deal?
And they were
it kind of came out of nowhere, Bonte, right?
Yeah. They were trying to fit Wiseman in. They started off on the road 1 in 1,000.
Right.
I mean, it was everything. The punch.
Well, that's what's great about this season. They start 7 of their first 9 games on the road. So the connectivity word that keeps getting thrown around here, we're going to find out how connected they are right away on the road, because obviously that wasn't apparent last year after what Guru says is what, Hawaiian punch?
Big early road
Not to
stretch
go Hawaiian,
for Guru.
but to bring it back to the punch.
Guru and Steiny with an over-under on road wins. 24.
Yeah.
So,
I got suckered into that one, but it's all good.
He
24.
tried to get out of it, and then you got back into it. So you look at the face.
I got it for 25.
One of the signatures.
Guru.
How many 25-win road teams were there?
There were one.
It's good.
All right, one of the signatures of these summits is it allows us to take the temperature of the Warrior fan base.
I like this.
So, make noise, yes or no, on this question, and that is, have you as Warriors fans accepted Chris Paul? Who would say yes?
Quest for Chris. Quest for Chris.
And,
Is that a thing?
I don't think Laker wants to
I'm
fill
making
that.
it a thing.
Laker
who would
wants to
say
fill that.
no?
I think they're
says
just
no.
cheering.
Jack says
MPK
no.
was just cheering. Hey,
Can I play a game like that? Okay. Opening night, you're all at the Warriors game, right? Starting forward for the Phoenix Suns, 6'11" out of Texas, Kevin Durant.
Look at mine. That was good.
Nobody's standing.
on your feet. Should all be on your feet.
Everybody should be up.
Do Devin Booker.
Wow.
Do Devin Booker.
Philmo was listening this morning with Joe Lakers.
Philmo, he got up.
He asked for a standing
Philmo,
up.
Hey, Willard,
I agree
he was
with
kind of
Philmo.
by
I
himself,
would definitely get up.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Bonte, what do you think? Is the roster a championship roster?
I didn't think they were a championship roster 2 years
There
ago, and
you
they
go.
ended up winning a championship.
Man.
You don't know how breaks play through in the NBA. What we do know, there's about 6 teams, just like the NFL, where you have about 6 to 7 teams that have a legit argument to be a championship contender. I think the Warriors can be that, but we have to see it. Health, obviously, and that third-year leap with Kaminga, where Wiggins is at, and how Klay shoots the basketball. Is Klay going to evolve? Because I think there's something with the two big lineup to Klay Thompson's game. At this stage of his career, he's so dependent on others to get him open. And so when you saw Draymond come off the bench against the Sacramento Kings, one big lineup created a lot of spacing. Klay's looking like, oh my gosh, this is easy basketball. So how does it look like? Once they get into the playoffs and they're healthy, their minds are going to will them through some series here. So potential to win a championship, but I need to see it first. Need to see the first 30 games of the season.
And I think it's interesting what you say about
called a
the
hedge.
two big lineup, because when you have Draymond and Looney both on the floor together, that's 2 non-scorers. So if Klay's in with that group, Klay's got to be old Klay, and he's got to be able to knock down the 3 ball, because if he's not shooting it well, now you have 3 non-scorers, and that means Chris Paul can't be on the floor. You're going to have Wiggins and Steph. I just wonder how the lineups are going to look late in games to where they can play defense. And I don't think defense is overrated in the playoffs. I think you're right, Joe, in terms of the regular year. But when you get down to ball crunching time, as we like to say, and you need to get a stop, you're going to have to be able to get a stop somehow, and it's going to depend on who's on the floor.
Guru, what do you want to say?
I just want to double back to Kaminga, because I'm trying to be so positive about this Warrior team.
What?
And he is Ben Franklin. He is electric. He's so electric that I think, and I mean what I'm about to say. I thought we were saying bye-bye. Not that I wanted to Draymond Green, because I thought they were going to go with Kaminga. That's how much I think of him. I'm watching him play so freely in preseason, Mark, that I'm scared, guys, that there's a log jam for him to get those 18 and maybe 25 to 26 minutes so he could be the best version of himself.
But I'm more scared that he's not this player.
That's what makes him struggle, Butch, is he knows he's not getting those allotted minutes. And I'm just, that scares me.
Baked in, like there's 82 games. Curry's not playing all 82.
I got you.
Chris Paul's not playing all 82. Klay's not playing all 82. So even if you
Kavan's playing all 82.
Okay, but let's say it's 70 for each of those guys, and that's just being conservative.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a lot of minutes to be had, and he can play multiple positions, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? The guy can defend on the perimeter. He can be a big. He gets to the free throw line. That's the other element that Chris Paul does. Draws a lot of fouls on a team that doesn't get to the free throw line a lot. I think he's poised for a bigger role. Moody's the guy I'm actually more like, where does he fit in, Moody? That's the question I have. Like, I'm not really sure.
But he's a guy that, you get in where you fit in. Like, that's not too much of a concern. But to their point, Guru, isn't this the kind of question that usually works itself out?
Yes.
Like, if someone had looked at Jordan Poole and been like, where are you going to find the minutes?
Wouldn't have said it.
And then he led the team in minutes because it works out that way, whether there's an injury or what have you. Kaminga, he can write his own story, man. Like, if he plays great, he'll find his way on the floor. That's what I think. But this is a question we can answer coming up next. And I think it's getting a little bit finer than what we already were with regard to Chris Paul in the lineup, and it's this. When you imagine Steph Curry and Chris Paul on the floor together at the exact same time, what comes to mind? What do you think of? What do you envision? How does that look? So we'll do that coming up next. We have plenty of Klay Thompson, contractual and otherwise conversation still ahead. This is the Warriors Summit at Fieldwork Brewing Company.
Hi, I'm Nabil Ahmed. At East Bay Law Practice, our mission is simple: to secure the best possible outcome for you, whether it's getting your case dropped, avoiding prison time,
Now back to the Warriors Summit, live from Fieldwork Brewing Company in San Leandro on 95.7 The Game.
This is the Warriors Summit! Fieldwork Brewing Company in San Leandro's the spot, and my gosh, the energy is just infectious in here.
Man, you'd think they were selling alcohol here or something.
Oh my God, seriously. You're all acting like you've had a few. It's crazy. But anyway, thank you all for being here. The Warriors season is upon us. We could not be more excited. We got the Kevin Durant framed shoe over here, the signed shoe to give away. One of you is going to walk out of here with that. We got Warrior tickets to give away.
From Billy from Atco Pet Control. He provided
Did you see Gilligan is here?
Yes.
Did you see Gilligan's here? Phil Mike.
That's a three.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a three.
He didn't hear me. He didn't hear me.
Yeah, he suited and booted.
We appreciate each of you being here, and those of you who aren't here yet, keep coming on your way. There's plenty of time left and plenty of things to share. So we want to get to all of it. And I tell you what, Dibs, we had those conversations for weeks when we were crossing over with Steiny and Goo as well. The Chris Paul thing made sense to some of us. It did not make sense to others. But specific to the idea of the point guard position, when you see Steph Curry and Chris Paul on the court together, in your mind's eye, what do you think of?
I think about Chris Paul being able to get Steph Curry open and involved like Draymond does. Because the one thing that Draymond does better than anything, maybe other than guarding 1 through 5, is knowing what to and how to get Steph Curry the ball. And I think Chris Paul, Guru, you're right about his ability to score. Yeah. It's not like it used to be. He's not a bucket getter. But, Joe, you said it, basketball IQ. He's an absolute basketball savant. So I think about Chris Paul, and we already saw it in the preseason, where Chris Paul penetrated, Steph relocated, he whipped it out, catch and shoot, bang. I see Steph Curry, not that he needs unlocking, but I see Chris Paul being another guy who can unlock Steph Curry.
I'll go. I think tempo was a big problem for them last year. As in, too fast at times when they needed to slow down, too slow at times when they needed to speed it up. You're talking about, if you're a coach, you have one of the smartest floor generals who's ever played the game now at your disposal. And I think the hardest thing to defend in the NBA right now, it's movement without the ball. If one guy's dribbling and 5 guys are looking at him, you can defend that eventually, even if you're an elite bucket getter like a James Harden. When you have that high pick and roll advantage and an ability to set things up, and Steph doesn't have to be a primary ball handler, and Klay Thompson doesn't have to have the ball in his hands with 6-7 seconds left on the shot clock. Hey, go make a play. I think it opens the floor up for everyone. You're allowing now Andrew Wiggins to be a slasher and a catch and shoot guy. I think this is going to be high level half court basketball, unlike anything we've seen from the Warriors.
This is the side, and Steiny, I wonder what you think, but this is the side of it that does immediately make sense to me, which is just talk about the offensive side of the ball with the Warriors, the running that Klay and Steph need to do in order to get open and create shots. And obviously neither one of them are guys who are that traditional NBA player who can create their own shot. The idea of what Chris Paul can do, looking for them and creating space for them, that's the part of all of this that makes the most sense to me. But what do you see when you're in your mind's eye, you think of those 2 point guards playing together?
Well, I think if they play Chris Paul along with Steph Curry, with Draymond Green, Wiggins, and let's just assume Klay, I mean, those. First of all, you got 3 really good passers on the floor, and if you want to play with Looney, then you have 4. So they're going to be really hard to guard if they're healthy and they're spry. Because I think there's a fine line between them being able to run an offense that looks like, oh my God, they can get an open shot anytime they want, to, you know what, they're just a step slow and the shots are a little more contested, and that's the fine line. But I think at their best, they're going to be really hard to guard if they play at least 3 passers at a time.
And then what about when that all flows, though, over to the other side of the court? That's, Joe, you asked me right from the jump, what's the hesitation For me, it's age. Nothing you can do about that. But the defensive side of the ball, I am curious to see what that's going to look like.
Yeah, that's super small. I mean, there's this myth that the Hamptons 5 was a small ball lineup. Kevin Durant, his wingspan was what?
Yeah.
7'2", 7'3", I don't know. Iguodala, 7'2", 7 whatever. They were actually long and athletic with that lineup. This is going super, super small. Chris Paul, Steph Curry, two, I'll say average at best defenders, especially at the stage of their careers. Klay Thompson, not the defender he used to be, so I don't think it looks good. You may be trading buckets, and I don't think you can do that at the end of the game. So one of these guys are going to have to be out. Now, the original question, how does Paul look with Steph Curry? They're going to be fine. Hall of Fame players figure out how to play Hall of Fame. So they're the greats of the greats. They're going to figure it out. How does Paul adjust to Draymond Green, a non-shooter? How does Paul adjust to Kevon Looney running the pick and roll? Can Looney finish? Paul used to have a lot of finishers, whether it's Phoenix, New Orleans, OKC. No matter where he went, he had a finisher. Can Looney be that finisher for him? So Steph and CP3, they're going to make beautiful music together. I'm not worried about them two. It's how CP3 adjusts in place with everybody else.
B, don't you think that the Miami Heat, with having two elite defensive players, Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, and a bunch of shooters and non-defensive players, they went pretty far running a lot of zone in that Eastern Conference. I feel like that's a template. I believe 60-70% of the time they went zone in the playoffs.
Would you say though Bam Adebayo's more of a threat to block a shot, to be a paint presence, where you look at Draymond Green at the stage of his career, guys are going in. The Lakers series is bad. That's a bad matchup for the Warriors.
That's one bad matchup. He does defend Jokic better than anyone, though. Bam could not defend Jokic. Draymond, in the past, before Jamal Murray was fully healthy, he defended him as well as you can. Guys, we watch it. Even then, he had a triple-double.
Jokic said it.
Yeah.
Jokic said that's the hardest guy as far as a matchup for me in the league. So, and then Goo, what about this? I feel like this is up your alley. When we're talking about the acceptance of Chris Paul, and this audience in front of us already gave us what felt like about a 75% approval rating, but let's be honest, that's in the end not really good enough. You want the support of all of the Warrior fans. These two playing together, I think that Steph Curry, he's one of these guys that the positivity emanates off of him on the court at such a level. I think the acceptance of Chris Paul rests on how the fans see him and Steph interact, both on the court and off.
Yeah, no doubt. Great point. And I'll say this because I hope I'm not coming across this way. I put major respect, Rodney Dangerfield, on Chris Paul's name. And the reason I have so much energy about Chris Paul is I've rooted for him in the past, and his injuries happen at the most inopportune times. They had the KD Warriors up 3-2. His hammy blew. Last year before Denver, they needed him in the Phoenix series. He got hurt, didn't come back. So it's going to be good early. What I'm worried about, guys, is can he last when it comes April? But about what I expect with him and Curry, it's going to be art. And it always is with Chris Paul. But I've watched Steph Curry make art with Draymond Green, with any point guard he's played with. Like, I could give Steph the ball and it's going to work, but what about the defensive end? That's what concerns me when Paul's out there. And if Bonte and Shasky are right and Steiny talking about they're going to finish small, I mean, they couldn't protect the rim last year. That is nightmare on Warrior Street for me until we see otherwise.
Was Jordan Poole a better defender than Chris Paul? Because I would say no.
But sometimes, Butch, your best defense is offense, and he could get you on the other end. Chris Paul ain't getting you on the other end. So if he's bad, if he ain't scoring offensively, who's he guarding? What do you mean? What am I talking about?
If you add Chris Paul's points and assists, he's probably more productive
he generates
than Jordan
more
Poole.
So you two are going to tell me that Chris Paul at this point can get you major offense. Phoenix said bye-bye for a reason.
Number 2 or 3.
Speak on that.
He's like the 4 or 5.
Speak on that. Why did Phoenix say bye and we're trying to win a chip?
Bradley Beal.
Do you believe it's possible to trade a passer for a scorer and you get better?
Yes.
Is that within the realm of possibility?
I think so.
Okay, that's what I think is going to happen.
Someone else does have to score those points, though.
Chris Paul,
we're not even talking about it.
But Chris Paul averaged 14 a game last year, shooting 38% from three, over 40 from the field. He's a very good shooter, especially when he's wide open. He embraces a mid-range where Jordan Poole got erratic last year. Yes, he could blow by people, and he could probably blow by defenders better than Chris Paul at this stage of his career, but
fall down.
You save possessions with Chris Paul. You don't turn the ball over.
Yes,
and they were one of the worst teams in the league when it came to that. You have to value possessions. How many one-possession games did they lose last year?
God.
The first 5-game road trip. How many games came down to possessions where they turned it over or smoked layups? So Chris Paul will get you in the right set. Defensively, different conversation. But offensively, I think he's a better fit right now than JP.
I also think that defensively, they're going to be better just based on what Joe was saying about tempo, because when Jordan was out there, it was so much more breakneck back and forth, and that led to easy buckets on the other end, which hurt your defensive metrics because
they were first in pace and first in turnovers. And
he was
that was a bad mix.
And because of that, not only because of that, but that was a big part of why your defense was so bad. You couldn't set up your half-court defense.
Dibs, how many times did he get blocked at the rim, fall down, and there goes a fast break the other way? How many times?
He was unplayable in the Sacramento Lakers series.
And I love Jordan.
And I know we went through a lot last year. It wasn't all his fault.
Right.
But he was basically unplayable, and it was bad.
Wow.
Chris Paul will never be that unplayable in a crucial situation.
That is the part of this whole thing that makes the most sense to me when you hear that the Warriors were first in pace, but also first in turnovers. People want to know, well, how's Chris Paul going to meet the pace? Well, maybe the Warriors need to slow down a little bit. And Chris does need to speed up, but meet in the middle, that does feel like a doable situation
Isn't
for
that
me.
placating?
No.
We can't placate.
No, that's playing basketball.
That's
not
adjusting.
I'm not worried about Chris Paul's ego, not even a little bit. You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM in HD1 San Francisco, always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch and YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. This is the Warriors Summit. Yeah, let's throw here. Who wants a Warrior ball? Yeah. Oh, let's go. Who needs a Warrior basketball? Who needs a Warrior basketball?
Who wants a pint glass?
Yeah.
Hey, Willard, can you be the opener with that arm?
What's that?
Can you give me 5 innings?
No, I'm already in pain. But anyway, to get you guys all involved on this, we got a question for you. We'll throw it out there. Fieldwork Brewing Company, San Leandro, great crowd that is assembled. If we take away, and we're going to go through a list here, so you can show your support with noise. Outside of Steph Curry, who is the most important Warrior this year?
Wiggins.
To have a great season. Hold on. We're going to go through the names with a round of applause. You can let us know what you think.
Pajemski.
Rodney Magruder.
Outside of Steph Curry, who's the most important Warrior this year to have a great season? Is it Klay Thompson?
Wow. I'm actually shocked by that response.
Is it Draymond Green?
No.
Is it Andrew Wiggins?
Smart audience. Very intelligent audience.
High IQ.
Is it Chris Paul? One last one. Is it Jonathan Kaminga?
Role player. Come on.
Fillmore Mike got the Holy Spirit. Did you see that?
That's supposed to be one good chicken wing back there.
That's how you speak without talking, Filmo. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
All right.
Wow. Wiggins or
Wiggins and Kaminga were the two top answers on the board. Joe, what do you think? You said Andrew Wiggins.
It's Andrew Wiggins. Okay, I was watching the game on Saturday night. I know, it's preseason. And Mark Jones was slurping the Kings. I get it. He works for the Kings. They won 4 more games. It was a disaster season for the Warriors. One of the best players punched out one of the best young players. They started 0 for 1,000 on the road. Klay was very erratic at best. Steph missed 1 million games because of injury.
Yep.
And they never had a consistent lineup. They didn't trust anyone. They had dead weight with Wiseman hanging over their head at the beginning of the season. They traded for a guy who was hurt in GP2, and they still won 4 less games than the Kings. If just a couple things go right, and Andrew Wiggins plays 6 65 games.
Instead of 41, right?
This is a team that's going to be looking at 50 wins at minimum, in my estimation.
Dante, what do you think?
I mean, to me, that's why the whole Chris Paul starting, Draymond, Klay, the X factor is Andrew Wiggins, which I guess makes him important because he became the second most important Warrior during the championship season. The rebounding, defending guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Think about what Boston's paying Jaylen Brown. And then you go look at Wiggins' contract. There's not much of a drop-off there. Jaylen Brown has to do a little more offensively, but Wiggins can do that. He's proven that he can score 20-plus in this league, so there's no doubt. To me, if he's healthy, he alleviates so much on the defensive end, guarding opposing point guards, two guards. He gives you so much versatility, and a guy who can slow down LeBron James at a time. So Andrew Wiggins is my X factor. I think he's the second most important player. It's not even close.
Hey, Bonte, you've talked about this a lot. We hyper-focus on Anthony Davis and Jokic. There's many more Paul Georges, Bookers, Luka Doncic's. Those are the guys Wiggins is going to have to guard with 5 minutes to go, right?
What do you think? Absolutely.
I think it's Jonathan Kaminga because Andrew Wiggins is a known commodity, and last year was a weird thing with the off-the-court issue, and he missed 41 games, but if you look at his career with the Warriors, he plays about 82, he plays 30-plus a night, and even though I give him a hard time for the K-Wig, and he goes, 5 of 12, 14 points and 4 rebounds, he's a known commodity. If Jonathan Kaminga can be the guy in that third-year jump, if he can be 15 and 8 and play 26 minutes a night and be an electrifying, impactful force off the bench, to me, he's the guy who elevates you from you're good to watch out for this team.
I tell you where I think you really have a point, too. Like, when we look at Andrew Wiggins, it's not to disagree that they're both obviously incredibly important. It's why they were the 2 top answers on the board. But in NBA history, when you sit there and hope for Andrew Wiggins to be forceful every night, you walk away frustrated. That has been his history in the league. We have seen basically 1-2 month stretch where it looked like he brought it every single time they laced him up.
He was an all-star that year.
I know, he was awesome.
And then had a rough second half. So if he can be that, then I'm totally with you. But Kaminga, who obviously has got a lot to prove this year, feels to me like someone who is ready to absolutely go max effort every single time on the floor. That's why I think that there's definitely a point in his favor. Goo, what do you think?
Again, I'm a Kaminga fan, but I'm blown away. It's Andrew Wiggins. This is a former #1 pick in the NBA draft. Since he's been here, he's arguably been your second best player. He can guard the other team's best player. He can put it on the floor, shoot 40% or close to 40% from 3. So last year was an anomaly. He had some drama. So if he's on point, I mean, he has to be on his A game, and there's no telling what heights this team could get to. But for Kaminga, he's got to kind of still prove it. And it's not a bad thing, but Andrew Wiggins, hey, Mark, I thought you threw shade at him. He was an all-star. I don't care about the second half.
Because he was
balling.
Because of the TikTok guy. Right? Overseas, the TikTok guy.
Where's the lie? Where's the lie?
Hey, you better leave Bam Bam alone.
My whole point was making the All-Star team superseded the slow second half, but they don't beat Boston without Andrew Wiggins, who we all forgot
without Andrew Wiggins.
No doubt, man.
Dallas.
No doubt. Wiggins is
Who argued that? But argue this.
Okay.
Does Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson all go to press conferences when Andrew has a good game and go, that's the guy we're hoping to see every night? True or false? True or false?
Yeah,
I give you that.
But Anthony Davis has the same questions.
Like all of us do, I want Andrew to be Andrew every single night.
But isn't this a lot of pressure on a 21-year-old and Jonathan Kaminga to say, hey, we need you to take a leap and play at a championship level when he's never done it.
But
He's
just be the
watched the last
seventh man.
few seasons.
We're not expecting
That's what we did last year with the kids.
13.
We put so much pressure on Wiggins, Wiseman, and Moody, and Kaminga, and just threw him out there and say, hey, go save the day. And then all of a sudden it was like, wait, they can't do it because they don't have the experience yet. That's just a lot of pressure for Kaminga.
I don't think he has to save the day.
Yeah, no one's asking that.
He just has to be your seventh man and a guy who you can look at in May and say, you know what? I want to play you. I want to play you. Thanks, Joe. Last year in the playoffs, they could not play him. He became unplayable.
You can make the argument Sarge may be more important when it's all said and done
we didn't even mention
than Jonathan Kaminga because of his size.
I don't hate that.
Sarge take for
I love my European bigs.
How about Dario Saric?
Hey, Mark, that's Steiny's guy.
They know basketball.
Steiny, what do you got?
They know
what do you got?
Well, first of all, and I have to do this frequently, as many of you know, the anomaly was the year Wiggins had.
Thank you.
That's the anomaly. His career has been one of underachieving. Can he get that 1 year back or whatever it was? Then they got a ball game. Absolutely.
Wasn't he good in the play-in year?
Maybe.
I thought he was
But
very good.
it's a play-in.
I'm saying the entire year.
Yeah, you know what? He was a good player on a what, 9th seed?
Well, I mean, they were technically the 7th seed and they lost 2 games in a row.
I think everybody can be right with their answer because I think they need multiple players to have great years.
Sure.
You know what, though? I keep thinking about this Chris Paul and Draymond thing.
Dude, go ahead.
And I actually am starting to think that one of Chris Paul's big roles is going to be, you know, I know everybody thinks they're 4-time champions and Chris Paul hasn't earned it and he's a never won and he gets hurt. I think Chris Paul is one of the only guys who could come into this locker room with the support of Steph Curry. Klay's probably going to be on his way, but Draymond Green, Chris Paul can stand up to Draymond Green. And the reason he can stand up to Draymond Green is because Draymond Green's going to say to Chris Paul, you ain't never won anything. We won 4 times. And you know what Chris Paul's going to say?
What?
You're a coattail rider. You're the 3rd best player. I'm just telling you. That's what he's going to say. That's what he's going to I'm just telling you what he's going to say. If push comes to shove, Chris Paul's going to say, yeah, I don't have any rings because I didn't get to play with Steph and Klay. Congratulations, Draymond. And I know, and that's an exaggeration, but if push comes to shove, and you know what? And the team is starting to get a little tired of Draymond, which I could see Steph getting a little tired of Draymond, and Kaminga is, you know what? And
after 12
Wiggins
years,
Wiggins is a pool guy. Wiggins is a pool guy, and I just don't think, like, Draymond better be careful. How about that?
He comes for the beer to stay for the heel turn.
He better be careful. And I'll tell you what.
Oh, here he goes.
I'll tell you what right now. It is not outside the realm of possibility. At the beginning of next year, Chris Paul's a Warrior and Draymond isn't.
Put that in the cap. Yeah.
Put it in the cap.
Put it in the cap.
And you guys know what kind of year I'm having.
I'll tell you this, Tiny, if the conversation comes to that, the season is cooked.
There's no doubt about it.
Hey, here's the other thing I was thinking.
Comes to that,
Tiny's in his bag.
then the season is cooked.
Here's the other thing. I was thinking more about Draymond Green. I was like, sign him to a 4-year deal, and they love him. Hey, good's better than the bad, and they know everything.
Today?
Yeah,
he went to his house.
Listen.
Draymond went to his house.
Let me tell you how much emotion was put into the Draymond contract. 0.00. Draymond getting paid was basketball to some extent, but a business decision. They can't let Draymond Green go for nothing. They gotta preserve the right to possibly move him if things go south.
I kind of agree with that. That's why they signed Jordan Poole.
What did you guys think about that?
Lay out
Draymond
now.
Green driving down to Joey Lightyear's house to have a one-on-one to maybe discuss the contract. Was it that the Warriors were saying, you know what? We can live without Draymond Green. To me, that's unheard of.
Well,
I can't break bread with my boss.
Wait a minute, but Joe Lacob is sitting there with you guys a number of hours ago, expressing how important it was to him that these three,
but he said he kept
these three never wear another jersey.
But he kept saying it's got to be the right business and winning situation. And winning overrides whatever the feel good is. But yes, he would like to keep them all together, but he also realizes somebody's got to go. He said it. Someone might have to go at some point.
Okay, so he said this 4 years ago. He came to studio, 2018, 2019. He said, look, man, I have 4 All-Stars on the floor right now. I will always have 4 stars on the floor. It may be different stars, so he's not afraid to make a bold trade and say, you know what? I see a star in this guy. These guys are aging. This is what the great franchises do. The great organizations throughout the history of the game.
You guys were in the room with him, so let me ask you, and then we'll get the audience involved on this too. But I think there's one thing to listen to what people say, and there's another thing to be sitting next to them and get the vibe off of them. So the chances that Klay, Steph, and Dre never put on another jersey.
I think they're all individually different.
Based on Steph is in a whole nother category. But I mean it as one entity.
A collective.
Either they do or they don't.
If Giannis was available this summer, upcoming summer, they would do whatever it takes to get him.
One guy may be available in Philadelphia, and that's Joel Embiid.
Yes.
I mean, you don't think the Warriors are going to sniff around like that?
Joe wants superstars.
Yeah,
that's what I walked away, and he was like, I will go for anyone at any time to win championships.
So you think the sentimentality angle of this is overplayed by the fans?
Did you hear the word optionality?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
They've all said that.
To me, that's a big
why they signed Jordan Poole, to have optionality.
And Draymond.
So put a percentage on it. Just
keep pushing that.
What do you think the chances are they all finish as Warriors?
75%?
I'll go surprisingly 45%.
See, I was thinking 50-50.
45%.
Yeah, I was thinking 50-50. Why do you think that, Bonte?
I'm in the 80-20, so yeah, I'm with you,
It's
Joe.
just so rare for a player to finish his entire career, and this Klay thing it's bigger than I thought. The contract with him, because we know how emotional he is. He talks about driving by Oracle Arena to get some of the good juju back, right? He's jumping in the water to kind of cleanse himself. I could see a guy like Klay. I don't know if it's going to happen. My guess is he'll be here, but I could see a scenario in which he's wearing a different uniform next season.
Ask me.
Next season?
Ask me.
Next season. What do you
we'll
think?
Get to you, Steiny.
Hey, Steiny, what do you think?
About 20%.
20%.
And that's high. And I'll tell you why, because we are forgetting a critical thing. Organizations that believe they are first class, top of the heap, they will do a favor for great players late in their career. And I understand it's sacrilege to talk about any of those 3 guys leaving, and I get it, they're on a different echelon. But Chris Mullin was traded to Indiana at the end of his career for a young player. And you know what? They all said, let's do this. And we'll bring you back as a Warrior at the very end, which they did. That's possible.
All right, we are at Fieldwork Brewing Company in San Leandro, and this is the Preseason Warriors Summit on 95.7 The Game. Bonte and Joe, Steiny and Goo, Willard and Dibbs, all of you, we appreciate the heck out of you. Let's get a little deeper into the Klay Thompson situation, and let's involve you. And I see you. We had one of our good listeners come up during the break, and he said to me, look, I'm almost hurt to my core with regard to the way Klay Thompson disrespect is being tossed around right now. So let's put it out to everybody, okay? Simply the idea of Klay Thompson not finishing his career as a Warrior, are you emotionally open to that? Yes? Is anybody okay with it? Okay, you didn't make any noise. Like 3 hands were like, me? I'm okay with it.
Well, they don't want to be ostracized by vocalizing that they want Klay out.
But obviously, as you guys are just pointing out, Joe Lacob is not going to run his business by emotion, Goo.
What is the NBA about right now? It's about shooting. Could you imagine this Warrior team without Klay Thompson? Where are the shots coming from? Steph and who else? Crickets. So if Draymond got the 400, I think it's so unfair that we sit up here and say a guy that met with his boss at his boss's castle to break bread. They've won 4 championships like Draymond went over there begging. To me, that signals Dre got one, Klay can get one. Let's talk, see about the number. I just don't believe they can allow Klay to walk and think you got a replacement on that team right now. You don't have a replacement because right now, to me, Klay is more attractive on the open market because he led the NBA in most made three-pointers than Draymond Green.
But did you ever go to the Higgins house?
I might do it.
Have you ever been to the Higgins house?
No, that's
invited yourself over for dinner?
But I would not go.
Well, you haven't.
No, but I ain't been invited. I ain't needed to go.
Well, Draymond wasn't invited either.
But why is that so bad? Like
Would
you
you
went
show up?
What if we asked you this? You say there's no replacement for Klay Thompson.
Not right now on the team.
Well, but there you go. There doesn't need to be right now. So what if what's around the corner is unseen?
All right.
And I get it. I'm an emotional fan too. It would mean a lot to a lot of us if those three guys never put on another jersey. But here's the question that Dibbs and I played with earlier today. How would you feel if it meant a couple years of mediocrity in exchange for they never walk?
Well, ask Steph that question. I don't think he would sign up for that.
I'm asking you that question.
I don't want that. No, it's too late in the game for the big three to have just a couple years go by and we're just okay. It's about win right now. Malcolm X, any means necessary.
So then that means you got to be open to him being gone at some point. You got to be open to it. Like, I look at it this way. We all just went through the Bob Myers situation. Everybody is like, they want to stay. This goes for Steve Kerr, too. They want to stay, and we want him to stay. Well, then why isn't it done yet?
Because somebody doesn't want to stay.
Or
there's some question marks.
Or there's not an agreement.
Maybe there's question marks about the ability of said coach or said player. And it's like, you know what? Let's shake it up now. Bob Myers is already out the door. We're in a transitional period. I want my young guys to play and get a little more burn. Maybe there's options. Maybe they're talking to other people. That's what the great organizations do. They always stay ahead of the game, right? Joey Lightyear's bragged about being ahead of everybody. We're smarter than everybody, right? They put the luxury tax in, the second apron. Say, you know what? We're going to navigate through that. We'll beat that too. The great organizations are always a step ahead. So they can budge when they want to budge. They budge when they want to budge. If Lacob says, hey, we're going to move on, we'll move on. And they'll have a plan in place.
You think this is lasting all season?
It depends. I think the ball is in Klay's hands. And it's all about this.
I don't
discernment.
know.
Here's what I would say.
He's going to shoot it.
No, discernment.
That's a three.
Shot selection discernment, and then self-awareness discernment. Like, is Frank Gore not a 49er? Would you guys all agree?
Yes.
Frank Gore is a 49er. He still saw himself as a feature back, and they were like, Frank, we love you. Everyone loves you. You're not a feature back anymore. Had he taken the discernment and maybe taken an evolved role, he probably would have retired a 49er. But he couldn't accept that. I don't know what Klay's willing to accept or adapt into.
Right.
I want to see him with Chris Paul. I think there's a better version than what we saw last year because I think he was asked to do things that he shouldn't be doing. Him dribbling with 7 seconds left on the shot clock, making a play is not a strength. That's just not. And I don't think that's on him. The makeup of the team forced him into a player that he is not. And I want to see what it looks like this year. What's his bounce back? What's his discernment? What's his willingness to adapt on the fly?
Well, I think last year was such a broken vibe and you saw him openly frustrated with Jordan Poole. You saw Curry throw a mouthpiece over Jordan Poole. So I think that level of me-first basketball that existed last year goes away this year, even though Klay's in a contract year. And yes, he led the league in three-pointers made. He also led the league in three-pointers taken. So in terms of discernment, I wonder if Klay's going to dial it back while also trying to pursue that contract. I do think, though, that this lasts all year. I don't think this gets done until this entire season is over.
I asked Lacob about that today, like, knowing what you know now with Draymond, now he had the opt-in, would you have done anything different? And he was like, no, I wouldn't do anything different. And I'm like, I mean, Bob left, right? And Draymond ended up staying, and he had the opt-in. I don't know. I think it did hang over their head last year.
Think about when they gave Draymond that extension. They could have made Draymond go into a contract here on a team with Pascal, a rookie in Jordan Poole, Omari Spellman. How would that contract have looked?
Throwing out
Kai Bowman.
Everything Butch just said, I don't disagree with, but I think it's about money, not fit. Klay, be you. What if Klay says, I want Jaylen Brown green, like our shirts? I think that's what it is.
To me, listen, it's easy to see why nothing's gotten done, as far as I'm concerned. If you're Lacob, what would you try to pay him?
I think he's in the $30 to $35 million range.
Lakin would want to
guess
pay
what?
him way less than that.
What?
What's that?
Lakin would want to pay him less than that.
Guess
I would
what?
imagine.
I don't think Klay would sign that.
You're probably right.
And that might
because like
You don't think Klay would sign a $30 million?
He'd be the second highest paid player on the Warriors.
No, because if I'm Klay and I'm a player and I believe in myself, why would I want to be in a contract year after I just played like I played? After the owner just said that the finish by him was really not good. If I'm Klay, I'm going to bet on myself. You know what, you guys? You think I might pout? You think I might be able to take a lesser role? I'll do all of it.
Is that what that me against the world meme was about the other day with Klay Thompson? You came out of nowhere saying it's me against the world. Is it him against the front office?
Maybe.
Hey, I'm going to get my buckets and I'll leave.
I think you might be onto something.
You think it's sadistic?
For everybody listening, if you missed this part of the roast conversation with Joe Lacob this morning, he dove into this with regard to Klay's contract situation, the comparison with the conversation and negotiation he had with Draymond Green just a year ago. So, Grandy, give us AB 25 on Joe Lacob.
Well, I hope it's not a distraction. I mean, we're not in control of this. I mean, there's two sides to every negotiation. We want him back. He wants to be back. It's kind of like Draymond.
Right.
I think you guys, everyone needs to just chill a little bit. Let this take its course. My guess is it works out. Okay? You know, I can't control it. I can't dictate it. You can't dictate it.
Right.
Fans can't dictate it. These things have to take their course. There's different parties involved, but the intentions are really good.
Well, the Draymond situation was different because he had an opt-in and he could opt out if he chose to.
True.
But do you look back at how that went and learn any lesson from that? Was it good, bad, indifferent? Was it just business? Like, did that have any tangible effect on the season last year, you think?
Oh, it might have, but I think there were some issues last year with respect to some of the contracts. Some of the other guys got contracts I know you're referring to. Maybe it did. I don't think there's going to be anything like that this year, though. Yeah. I really don't. Klay's a professional. Respect him tremendously. And we're going to do our best to get this done. And, hopefully it is done sooner rather than later, but it might not be.
Bonte, you just said it. The IG post, I bet a lot of them don't know, the me against the world thing that Klay Thompson put up. I mean, there's always more than meets the eye when it comes to situations like this. Do you think there is, and I don't want to call it some sort of argument, discord, what have you, but are there, where do you think the feelings are in this negotiation right now between these two sides?
From Klay, I'm kind of with Steiny. Hey, I'm going to bet on myself. I'll lead the league in threes. I'll shoot 41%. In a league that values shooting in this era more so than any era before in basketball, somebody will spend the money on Klay Thompson because of his jump shot. Joe Lacob and the company, they want to wait and see it out. Should we invest? And look, maybe there's a thing with them paying Klay Thompson for those first 2 years where they didn't get any ROI, as Guru would say, return on investment. It's not nobody's fault. It is what it is. Catastrophic injuries happen. That's sports. Maybe the Warriors, too, are saying, you know what, let's see how he adjusts. Let's see him guard for us this year. Let's see how he plays in a small ball lineup. And can he finish games for us? If not, you know what, we may have to make a tough decision here.
I just don't, like, in these situations, who are the teams giving Klay Thompson close to maximum money?
Well, there's always a sucker in the NBA.
But there aren't that many slots.
There's always somebody in the NBA who will bite the bullet and say, you know what, this guy's a knockdown shooter.
Charlotte? Okay, yeah, I'll believe that when I see it.
Well, that's kind of like, that's what goes into my mind, Steiny, when you say if I'm Klay Thompson, I'm not signing that deal right now.
I'm not.
I don't disagree with you, and I know that's how a lot of players think. I think a lot of people in this room with us here today, though, when we talk about the Warriors having emotion in the negotiation and wanting Klay to wear a jersey for his entire career, we all sort of think that Klay should too. And I'm not asking a player to take a discount by any stretch, but where does that idea factor into this? If you really do want to stay, if you want the value of wearing the same jersey your entire career, should Klay take a little something off so that he can stay?
We know that Klay's not the guy who wants to take anything off. He's the guy who said, I'm not sacrificing when Durant came.
That was 6 years ago.
He's also the guy who said 4 rings to Devin Booker because it is very important to Klay Thompson. Maybe more than money, that he's respected. He wants respect. And if Joe Lacob's saying, hey, 30, we'll just give you 30. Well, like with the cap going up,
We don't know that. We don't know that.
I think we can pretty much assume
because
that.
TNT. Well, we can have a different discussion.
But my point is that $43 million now is.
He's the eighth highest paid player last year.
Like $35 to $40 million is. There's room to go up. Right. Is what I'm saying.
On this team, on this edition of the Golden State Warriors, who's more important? Is it Dre or Klay? With what they want to do? Because boy, they play some good basketball without Draymond
You know what?
Green.
I think it's Klay.
And
Clay's more important on this team.
And I'll tell you why. Here's the blessing, and the Draymond's gonna. He's going to play, and most of the time he's going to help you. And when he doesn't play well, he doesn't hurt you. When Klay plays badly, he hurts you. He gets you beat. Draymond doesn't get you beat. Draymond can stay 50-50, and he's still going to make some. Klay's now had some games where he has really hurt the Warriors. Steph's never going to hurt the Warriors. Look at Wiggins even. Wiggins is never going to really kill the Warriors. But Klay is the one player who's highly volatile.
What do you think, B? You think Dre's more important?
I think Klay needs so much help with the spacing of the floor at this stage of his career that he can't do the things that he could do 5 years ago. So what does that look like when he's playing with two big lineups? Again, when they played Sacramento and they went to the one big lineup, Klay saw some of the best shots he saw all season long. When Steph and Dre were hurt and he had to carry the Warriors in January and March, the spacing was a lot better because you had a lot of shooters out there on the floor, although they were kind of small and had some average defenders. So he needs space more so than anybody. And I think with Draymond on the floor and Looney on the floor, that affects Klay Thompson's game to where he's forcing shots and everybody's up in his airspace.
I'll say this. Klay Thompson, I'm such a huge fan of the guy and everything that you guys are saying right now, just from the basketball sense, that's one side. The emotional side, though, that we were just talking about. Here's one thing that does get me. It doesn't feel good when he brings this stuff to the party, holding up the fours in people's faces when he's not playing well. And then there's this. Steiny, if you say he's the guy who just always wants the ultimate respect, how come we're not talking about the fact that the Warriors showed up to the hospital with a max contract? How come that's not still a part of this? If you're going to go up on stage and say, I can't believe the Warriors did that, who does that? That came out of his mouth. Why is that not in his brain still today when it comes time to talk about a contract again?
We don't know it's not.
Fair. That's fair.
Because we don't really know any of the numbers. But it may be, the one thing Joe Lacob's always been consistent about, even when Durant was taking those one-year contracts, he's like, players have the right. Players have the right to explore free agency. And I think that's just where we're at right now. Like, if I were Klay, I'm coming off a bad year. I almost don't want to give them the chance to kind of lowball me, which is the way I'm going to feel. I know I'm going to feel that way.
And this is the first chance he's had at free agency since he got badly hurt, right?
Yep.
So before that, it was many years prior, and now you're in a spot where this is it. If he takes a contract with the Warriors, he ends his career as a Warriors, or he plays this year out and he has a chance to put himself out there for the first time, which is what Draymond did. Draymond opted out, and reportedly Sacramento had an offer that was sweet there, and he decided to stay. So maybe Klay wants that opportunity now. No disrespect.
This is the Warriors Summit 2023, Fieldwork Brewing Company in San Leandro. All three shows talking it out, all of the different Warriors angles. Guru, what you want to say?
When I saw that IG post, and I now believe this, that athletes right now, entertainers, they use their social media to send the subliminal messages. So when I saw me against the world, that was a shot at the front office in these negotiations. And I do know this, Willard. They say it in the street and they say it in the sport leagues. You never speak on the next man's money. But Klay Thompson, I would tell him this. You won the negotiations with that last contract. You're getting the Ronnie Lott, $42 million. They had your back when you didn't play for 2 years. How could you possibly want that 42 to go up?
You gave your body to the organization.
Okay, I
That's
get that.
what he's saying.
But my favorite breakfast food is waffles And this reeks of ego, not ego. This reeks of ego.
Come on,
and if
man.
Klay is trying to get money, if he's trying to get money, Willard, then I feel like you can't look at the team that you want to stay here, that raised you from a pup, that drafted you.
So should he take a bargain?
No.
Should he take a discount deal
what's
now?
really a bargain? 30. What's Klay? You're not the two-way player
we don't know
that you
what
got
the
the
offer
original
is right now.
compliment. I think he wants more than what he's getting now.
Well, I don't think he's getting more than what he's getting now. But
Who
he
is
probably,
giving
he probably wants more than
35-year-old
what he's being
Klay
offered.
$50 million a year?
Well,
what are we talking?
Right now, nobody.
That's.
But
I agree.
That may be why he wants to play it out. And
What if he's not going to be here
Do we all
then?
think that
What?
Draymond had a higher offer than what the Warriors gave?
Ask Steiny that.
Yeah, I do.
I do too.
Maybe.
I do too.
By the way,
But the situation wasn't better.
That's my point.
The situation would have maybe exposed him for some of the shortcomings that he has on the basketball floor. Not to disrespect Draymond,
You know
he's a
what?
Hall of Famer, but
I think Draymond wants to play for another team way less than Klay Thompson. Like, I think Klay Thompson
Why do you say
would.
that?
Because I think Draymond knows that if he goes somewhere else,
without Steph,
it could get dicey. But Klay,
Hey, you better be careful.
Klay has the kind of mentality where he
careful.
says, I love Steph, but if you get me away from him, I'll get you 30 tonight.
right.
Well, and if Draymond goes somewhere else and he averages a double single and they go 25 and 57, all of a sudden you're right
Or
about
15 and 52.
Well, then we're talking about, him being, quote, exposed. Even though he's a Hall of Famer, he won't be looked at it the same way as he is here when his double single leads to championships.
I also think we're putting numbers on this that we don't even know if they're
Exactly.
true.
Yep.
The media is the one that has said $30 to $35 million. And Steiny, you say he wouldn't take it. Maybe he would. Because, Joe, you've got a point. What's up?
Waste
You've got
management.
a point.
Tony Soprano showed up. Let's go.
The mob is here. The mob is here. No, you've got a point. Who's giving him $35 a year
Look,
next
all
year?
I'm saying is this.
No,
You
you're
guys,
right.
you guys have all bought homes, right, at some point, or you've had a negotiation of some sort. You can't always get what you want. Rolling Stones, guru. Rolling Stones. But it's the truth. Like, in a good negotiation, you take a little off top on both sides and you meet in the middle. And I feel like in this situation, if Klay is asking for something that's a little gratuitous, well, then he's going to have to walk.
Well, here's the way I see it. If there's been an offer, and I believe there has, he doesn't like it.
I agree.
Because if he liked the offer that he got, he would sign it. So if I'm Klay, all of the loyalty, shout out Kendrick Lamar.
I'm going to give 4.
I had it on this morning for breakfast for the baby. But all that's way in the past. Right now you're worried about this year, this contract. All the rest of that doesn't matter.
What do you think about this? One thing we learned from Bob Myers is that, don't make a decision until you have to.
Right.
Now, organizations that are trying to get to championships, they can't afford to do that all the time. But if you think you're a championship team, then you do want to push everything. Push. When Draymond opted out, they had to deal with it. They had to. Klay, they do not have to deal with Klay right now. They don't. And
they shouldn't.
And so the Bob Myers philosophy of let's just, go ahead and kick it down the road.
What if he takes it on the court? What if he takes it on the court and he's off to a horrible start? We're not going to be like it's that's a dark cloud.
When's the trade deadline? When's the trade deadline?
February.
Okay. I mean, if he takes it on the court and things aren't working, then you deal him. You send him to Charlotte.
Well, that's...
well, you know what? Send him to Portland. That's a little much. He grew up in Portland. He go to the
Send him to Detroit and get Wiseman back. We need a big.
I do think that, the whole fan base, we're in a soap opera state of mind because of what happened last year.
Real talk.
And that is not actually the way this organization normally operates, nor should it. So, should they play softball? No. But should they play hardball? I wouldn't think either. There is a mutual respect that I think is back in the building that had been lost last year.
Yeah. And on top of that, here we talking about Klay, Steve Kerr, the head coach. He ain't getting older. You don't coach. What's up with his status?
Yeah, what do you guys think about that?
This is across the board.
I want to know something from the audience, though, because last time we were at Bonvino in Walnut Creek for the first Warrior Summit, a lot of people were okay with Draymond walking. A lot of Warrior fans here were okay with Draymond Green walking.
That's true.
How are we feeling about Draymond Green being back after everything that transpired last season? That's what we good with Draymond back? interesting because a lot of the fans were waiting to move on from him, and it would have changed the dynamic of this team.
Well, let's get a little poll here. So this is the way we'll ask it. First of all, who's pumped that Draymond is back long term? All right. Now, who is sick of Draymond?
There you go.
It got better. It got better.
It flipped from Buonvino.
It got better. There's no question it got better. That changed the whole thing. But what do you think is going on with the Steve Kerr silence?
Maybe Joe Lacob and the ownership group and some of the front office members were not happy with the way Steve Kerr coached last year, especially when it came to rotations. It's been known that Joe Lacob loves his young guys, those lottery picks. It was not easy for him to deal James Wiseman. He wanted to hold on to Kaminga. He did. He said this morning he was really ticked to lose Jordan Poole, a young player who's going to average a lot of points in this league. Whether he wins or not, that's yet to be seen, right? Joe Lacob's probably sit back saying, all right, I got what you want. You got a leader in Chris Paul. You got somebody who's not going to turn the ball over. You still have Klay. I gave you Draymond back. Kaminga's ready to go. How do you play out this year? What do the rotations look like? They're 20 games deep into the season, and Kaminga's only seeing 10 minutes a game. You think Dunleavy or Lacob's going to be happy about that?
Monte, that sounds like a tryout. That sounds like
same thing with Klay, right? And Steve Kerr may be thinking, hey, look, I got Team USA in my back pocket. If I ever want to go back to broadcasting, there's a job there. Or I could go coach somewhere else. I think on both sides, it's a wait-and-see move here.
I think that they sign him within the next couple of weeks. I think they lock up Steve Kerr. They keep Steve Kerr. I can't imagine that Steph, Klay, and Dre want to face a season of questions about who their future coach will be. Wow. Now, the Bob Myers thing was different because obviously
he was burnt out.
He was fed up with the 12 calls a day or whatever that pressure was. Steve Kerr doesn't get that same pipeline from Joe Lacob. So unless Steve Kerr wants to move on and do, Team USA and maybe the broadcast booth or whatever, if he's burnt out, if he wants the gig, I think they sign him, and I think it happens soon.
Well, and the reason that, to me, this is way different than any Klay Thompson situation is if Steve Kerr supposedly wants to stay and the Warriors want him to stay, then pay him and have him stay. It affects no one else.
What's the holdup?
There's no There's no salary
no second
cap.
Apron.
There's no anything that you got to worry about with Steve Kerr. He's obviously at the top of the league. You give him a contract that's up near there, and you move on. So I just think there's a lot more than meets the eye with all of these conversations right now.
Man.
Because it's not that difficult. The Klay one is. The Steve one is not. What's hard about that?
Well, $15 million a year is hard.
Why? Is $15 million a year hard for Joe Lacob?
I don't think that Joe's looking at his bank account going, man, I just can't do it. I'm running a little low on the funds.
When has Joe Lacob ever treated anything like that?
Never.
If he wants it, he'll pay for it.
Right. And if Steve wants to be here, I can't imagine why it hasn't gotten done, why it won't get done. That's why I think it will get done.
All right, we are at the summit at Fieldwork Brewing Company in San Leandro for the Preseason Warriors Summit with the whole gang up here, and we are not done yet. But get this, coming up next, we've got breaking Warriors news live from the summit. Wait.
You know what it is?
Wait until you hear what the Warriors are doing tonight.
Line up
in their game. Wait until you hear what they are doing. We'll get to that coming up next. This is the Warriors Summit on 95.7 The Game.
Big Bone State.
Now back to the Warriors Summit, live from Fieldwork Brewing Company in San Leandro on 95.7 The Game.
All right, we are not done yet. We are at Fieldwork Brewing Company in San Leandro for the Warriors Summit.
Woo! Wow.
And we are not done yet. The first and foremost thing we want to do, again, thank all of you for coming out. This has been amazing. Thank you so much for being here. Give yourselves a round of applause. Give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you.
That's a four.
We want to thank Barry, the owner of Fieldwork Brewing Company, and Jeremy and Jenny and Shauna, the whole Fieldwork team that's been helping us out. We really, really appreciate you. We appreciate your hospitality. This has been wonderful. We hope to do more. We want to say hi to Dave from San Leandro Flooring. Dave, thank you for being out here. We want to say thank you and hello to Matt from Ceremony Ford. Thank you for being out here. We want to say hello and thank you to Josh from Abundant Life. Thank you for being out here. Nabil, East Bay Law. It's been a blast working with you. Thank you for being here. And Dave from the Ford store in San Leandro, thank you so much for being here as well and supporting us here at 95.7 The Game. Now, got something fun for you. Steve Kerr has already mentioned that this week's preseason games would be a bit of a, quote, dress rehearsal.
Steve.
Did he not?
Yeah, you did.
Did he not?
Steve, did we lose you?
The lineup for tonight's Warriors game, as the Warriors, quote, start to experiment with some new lineups this week. First of all, Kevon Looney is not feeling well. So he's out.
I'm out.
So the starting lineup tonight will be Steph Curry.
I've heard of him.
Klay Thompson.
Okay.
Splash it up.
Andrew Wiggins.
I do a Wiggins impersonation if you want it later.
We'll do it in a moment.
Okay.
Jonathan Kaminga. And the last starter, Trace Jackson Davis.
Ooh. Yeah, nothing to see here.
Chris Paul. Styles, where are you? Chris Paul will be coming off of the bench.
Talk to me Tuesday, Willard. Yeah.
Dress rehearsal, Goo. Dress rehearsal.
Does he know how to come off the bench?
I don't. We're gonna find out.
Is that really a big deal? Let me ask you, because everybody's fixated on this starting thing. Is that a big deal?
It's not in a basket. This is my opinion.
Yeah.
It's not in the basketball sense. Where I think it was a big deal when he got here. I've argued this a couple of times. When people say the starting thing is overblown, I say, well, it's blown up because of Chris. It's because of the way he answered the first question. Now, he did an unbelievable job, I thought, at Media Day of reeling it back, and therefore, it's all calmed down. All Warriors fans wanted to see, and whether it was fake or whatever, it doesn't even matter. What Warriors fans wanted to see was Chris Paul come in here and have some respect for the organization he's joining and not act like anything's owed to him upon arrival. He didn't do that at the beginning. He did at Media Day, and you watch how much better it got. From that perspective was why I think it's a big deal.
Gotcha. See, I think this is going to be his normal role. Yeah. I'm eager to see what Finn. By the way, while you were saying that, Jordan Poole has 29 first-half points for the Washington Wizards.
Wow, don't tell me that.
8 of
They're
14.
down 22.
4 threes.
Wow. 8 of 14.
He can score.
Yeah.
We already knew that. We know he can score.
Bonte, I think
Are
it's
they
a big
down
deal.
by 12?
I don't even know the score. It's highlights.
Go ahead.
I think it's a big deal because Chris Paul is 11th all-time in the NBA in games started, and of the 10 guys who are ahead of him, all 10 of them have come off the bench in their career. In other words, no player has ever been a starter exclusively more than Chris Paul. He's the all-time leader in only starts, not another only, but only starts. He has never come off the bench. All the other people ahead of him who have more starts have come off the bench. So if Chris Paul says it's not a thing, then it's not a thing. And until I hear him say that, I think that it is a thing.
Again, what's going to be the thing is who plays in the last 6 minutes.
Agreed, I agree.
Winning time. Who's on the floor?
Sure.
Who's not on the floor? Does that person have a problem with not being on the floor?
But doesn't that change, Bonte, depending on the game and the matchups?
Maybe a guy like Klay and Steph and Wiggins are saying, we play no matter what the matchup is. We deserve to be on the floor.
Well, and I'm wondering a scenario in which you're in a very close game that you tell your smartest player you can't play.
I mean, if he can't defend and you're going up against Denver, and Denver's got 3 7-footers, you can't play all of your Mighty Mouse 5. You're going to have some size on the floor.
You may have to, but what I'm saying is that's where I think we'll have a problem.
Do you think that that's already a fait accompli that Chris Paul is their smartest player? That's done?
Well, you know what I mean. I mean, I do believe that it's more than just ironic that they got off Jordan Poole and got Chris Paul. They can't be two more dramatically different players in terms of, recklessness and free, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I do think that, yes. And here's the other thing about him starting. I don't think he cares anymore. I think he gets traded. First of all, he goes to Washington first. All right, so he's discarded. Then he's kind of discarded again. And then he comes here and he's probably shocked a little bit. And the first question is, hey, you're going to be great with that second unit. I would be like, F off.
Whoa.
Like, I'll deal with that down the road. Really, any reporter, who are you? That would have rubbed me the wrong way.
He kind of did it. You coached
exactly.
him.
And he just needed time to, okay, whatever, I'll figure it out.
Well, I totally hear you, but wouldn't I be able to argue, especially in the world of major celebrity and being coached up by who I think is the best public relations person in all of sports, are you going to tell me that question surprised Chris Paul? It's literally the number one thing that was on everybody's mind.
But they hadn't talked about it, Mark.
Yet? Was he underneath
They hadn't talked about
umbrella?
It. Well, he was looking like, I ain't going to have this conversation with y'all.
Right.
Okay, so
when we ain't had it with the real ones.
So you're buying the idea. Steph Curry sat there in a room with the two of you last year and said, who's winning the bet? And you guys went, you know about that? And what did he tell you?
I hear everything.
So does Chris. Because he's Chris. He is a basketball celebrity. They listen to everything. They're probably listening to us right now.
No doubt,
They
Mark.
read it all.
But my
They
point
hear it
doesn't
all.
mean that he had an answer if he hadn't even talked to the guys and everybody admits they were shocked. That's what I mean. They hadn't talked yet.
Then don't have a press conference yet.
Well, in fairness, it wasn't really a press conference. They grabbed him in Vegas and put him in.
He was cornered.
And he can say no thank you.
He was cornered.
But what if he was
Exactly. Like that?
What if he was feeling some
Andrews
type of way about everything?
That's fine. He clearly was.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And Warrior fans get to feel some type of way about him feeling some type of way. I mean, that's all this was.
I've said it before, and I'll say it to the Summit audience. I loved his response, you coaching, because she's not coaching.
Mark, I agree with Guru on this
100%. Don't mistake me. I don't hate the response. But if what you want is the whole talk to die down, it was the wrong response.
Can I ask Steiny before we get out of here, and you three,
let's go,
about why Steiny had that energy about Draymond's contract? A majority of it could have been what they could do with him and flip him whenever they decided to. Why can't you have that same energy on the Chris Paul acquisition, which they can get up off of after this year? Why do you not? Why do you look at those different?
I'm not sure I follow.
Because you said Draymond got the 400, but that was because they couldn't let him go,
right, he was an
and they're going to use him as a pawn if they decide to. They can do the same with Chris Paul, but you don't talk about that that component of it. After this year, they get off of that money.
They can. It's not guaranteed next year.
So to Mark's point,
it gives them optionality.
I think part of what they can do with him in the future was greater than him on the basketball court now.
That's probably, yes. It was financial and basketball-wise,
all right.
I think. By the way, you know what? One of the reasons I love Joe Lacob is you can really kind of mess around with him. He's a real one. Is Joe Lacob the greatest owner in sports? One of them. See, everybody's so soft. It's like you don't ask yourself, can he do it without Steph Curry? He's still got one more thing to do. He's got to do this without Steph Curry.
Why? Did you tell him this today?
I also told him he wasn't an 8 handicap. I needed to see that.
Go to Boston.
Shasky's dad saw Lacob swing.
No comment on that.
He asked Steiny where his collar shirt was.
All right. Let's go across the board here. Final comment. Is the Warrior roster good enough to win the championship this year? Guru, what do you say?
I'm going to say no. Well, I'm going to say no.
That's a weird one. Because I'd say yes.
What? Now, why?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Guru. Why do you answer that way?
Because they're kind of doing it on the fly in the way that this Chris Paul acquisition happened and the shock, and I get it, and they're going to give it the old college try. I just don't there's too many question marks for me on both sides of the defense and offensively, and ego, all that stuff. It just has the components to blow up.
Steiny?
I hope I'm wrong.
I'm hoping he changes his mind by opening night. A good chance of that.
Why? So you can bet him again?
Like I said, I think they have a chance. It's a thin window. It's a very thin window, but I do think they have a better shot this year than last because I think they have a chance to be.
They're cheering you on.
Never mind.
Steiny said something positive. He said something positive. Yeah, let's go. Let's go. You said something positive. Hey, Steiny! Oh, boy, that's the MVP.
All right.
MVP.
Let me change that. They're done.
Steiny the MVP.
They're done.
James Steiny.
I cannot deal with an ovation. They're done.
Too late.
I love that you think they have a better chance this year than last year because last year's already over. So dumb. Anyway, go ahead, Tibbs. What do you think?
I can't follow that. I'm here with Steiny, so yeah, Steiny, whatever you say. I like what Bonte said earlier about one of 7 teams. They're in that group, so yes, they're good enough. If they're healthy in April, I'm not betting against them.
Yeah, last year was a wreck. They finished in the final 8. Warriors have a championship roster. Got to have a couple breaks. We'll see what they make any moves at the deadline, but they have a championship roster. You got Steph Curry. You have a top 5 player on your roster. That gives you a shot to contend.
Yeah, roster is good enough. Yeah, will they win? Probably not. I'd say that about every team. But is the roster good enough? Absolutely. You were all good enough. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Fieldwork Brewing Company, San Leandro. If you want to hear any of that Joe Lacob interview that the Roast did this morning, it is coming up next with Mark Grandy on the best of the game. For Steiny, for Goo, for Dibs, for Bonte, for Joe, I'm Mark. Thank you all. Shoot your shot. It's all you got.